The New York Mets have just one position player left to cut to finalize the Major League roster. Let's talk about it. And well, welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watu-K99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. So we're going to talk a little New York Mets baseball here, and specifically the 26-man roster. Now, about a month out, I decided to make my early projections for the 26-man roster, who I thought would make it. Obviously, a lot has changed since then, with Jose Quintana getting injured and Win Diaz being injured for the entire season, it looks like. So that's going to change a couple of things. But I want to spend this video focusing on the position players in particular, because there's been a lot of Mets fans on social media going crazy over the decision to send down both Brett Bary and markvientos, to send them to Syracuse and not give them the opportunity to start the season with the big league club. And you know what? I can't disagree with it. I really wanted Brett Bary on this team. You know, all season long, I felt the biggest complaint Mets fans had was that they didn't add to the lineup. They maintained the lineup, but they didn't add to it, unless you want to count replacing James McCann with Omar Narvaez, an upgrade. I guess it can't be that much worse. But I really felt that the infusion of offense was going to come not from outside, not from a free agent, not from a trade, but from their homegrown prospects. The Mets have a good farm system. Not a great farm system, but a good farm system. And the vast majority of their top 10, if you go through the list, 8 or 9 of those players are position players, not pitchers. And it's getting to the point now where I believe that at least one of them deserves a chance to start with the Major League club. Now, Vientos, I'm going to look at him first. I didn't have an issue with him going back down to Syracuse. To me, he's an all-or-nothing player. When he hits the ball, he kills the ball, but his strikeout rate is still 36%. He's made some strides on defense, but I'll tell you what, unless he can get that strikeout rate under, in my mind, 30%, he's never going to have a job as an everyday Major League Baseball player, not even as a designated hitter, in my opinion. Unless he becomes like Adam Dunn and hits 40 home runs while striking out, 25 to 30% of the time. So Vientos, I understood, but to me, it made sense to give Brett Bary an opportunity to at least play every day against righties, make Eduardo Escobar your right-handed hitting third baseman, because that's where he's a much better hitter anyway. Maybe they wanted Escobar. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the different ideas why they're giving Escobar the full-time third base job. It might be because of his presence in the locker room. He's one of the most respected leaders in that clubhouse. He could still lead from the bench, in my opinion. And to me, we know Escobar only has so much of a ceiling. You know, he had an amazing September. He was the best Met hitter in the month of September as the division lead slipped away. But I can't count on him to be that kind of a player for 6 months. We know what kind of a ceiling Escobar has. He might hit you 20 to 25 home runs. He'll hit 260, something like that. But he'll be an okay hitting third baseman. Brett Bary has the chance to be special. Brett Bary is already 23 years old. This isn't a 20-year-old kid. This isn't Francisco Alvarez, who could use another year developing in the minor leagues to refine his game. Bary is pretty much there. I think Brett Bary is ready to step in, just like Austin Riley did. You know, just like Michael Harris did for the Braves last year. Spencer Strider did, although he's a pitcher. Vaughn Grissom, same thing. And here's the thing with Billy Epler, the Mets general manager. To hear the excuses he was giving why Bary was getting sent down to Syracuse, it made it even worse. You know, the trade... Here's the thing. Darin Ruf is still an option to be on this team, and we're going to get to the final decision in a moment. But I want to do a lead-up to kind of get to that last point there. But if you look at Brett Baty's statistics in spring training, here's his stats. He's hitting .325, 1 home run, 7 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, 6 RBIs. His on-base plus slugging is .885. That's one of the 5 best on the Mets right now. To me, I don't know what Bary else could have done during the spring to convince the brass that he had a chance to make the Major League roster going forward. Now, I put that on Billy Epler first. Maybe it's Buck Showalter. I definitely believe Beatty will be up sometime during the first half of the season, and when it happens, I really hope he gets the opportunity to play every day. Maybe it'll take Escobar slumping. Maybe it'll take Escobar having a terrible first 2 months of the season. And I gotta tell you, it disappointed me greatly that Brett Bary will not get the opportunity to start the season with the New York Mets. But he's gone down. Now, as I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon, the Mets just optioned utility infielder Danny Mendick down to Syracuse. I never really considered him too much of a candidate to make the Major League roster. When you have Luis Guillorme as your utility infielder, I'll roll with him. So there's two players competing for one spot. Okay, here's the thing. You've got your two catchers. You've got Narvaez. You've got Nito. I'm doing this literally off the top of my head. Your starting infield, you've got Alonso, McNeil, Lindor, Escobar. And then you've got Guillorme as your utility infielder. Then your three starting outfielders, you have Brandon Nimmo, Starling Marte, Mark Canha, Daniel Vogelbach as the left-handed DH, and you have Tommy Pham as the fourth outfielder. That leaves one spot left. Now, there's two candidates. On one hand, you've got Timlocastro. The other hand, you've got Darin Ruf. I don't think there's a single Mets fan on earth who has not ripped Darin Ruf up to this point. I was willing to give him a chance to earn his job in spring training because he does have a good history of being able to mash left-handed pitching. It's just once he put the orange, white, and blue on, he completely forgot how to do that. So I said, let's see what he does during spring training. I wasn't convincing myself that Billy Upler would try to justify the trade, that they made with San Francisco when they traded J.D. Davis, Thomas Sapucki, left-handed minor league pitcher, and two other prospects to bring in Darin Ruf. I was worried that it was a situation where they would try to be justifying the trade. And I'll tell you what, based off what we have seen in spring training, that is the only justifiable reason that the New York Mets could have to carry Darin Ruf for opening day. There is absolutely no other reason. But I got to tell you, with Timlocastro, and we made a video about this once he got signed, I was very excited for the Mets to bring him in. Speed is a much more important part of the game than it has been in years past. You have the larger bases. You have the reduced pickoff moves that a pitcher can have. You can only throw over so many times. If you could steal a base, if you're a pinch runner, you now have an important role, a much more important role than you've had before. And Locastro, if nothing else, has speed and can play defense. Not the best bat in the world up to this point, but he has that, and I felt that was a dimension that the Mets were really, really lacking. But what I did know is that Locastro would have as good a spring training as any other Met. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up a couple of different stats here. I'm going to read them off to you. We're going to compare Darin Ruf to Timlocastro, and let's think about who we would rather have on this team. Okay, batting average, Darin Ruf batted 185, Timlocastro 295. By the way, that's the highest average on the entire Mets team in spring training. Home runs. Well, one thing Darin Ruf does have is power. Well, he didn't have any home runs in spring training, but Locastro had one. Runs scored, Darin Ruf scored 3, Timlocastro scored a team high 11. Base hits, Darin Ruf had 5, Timlocastro 13. Doubles, Darin Ruf had 2, Timlocastro had 5. Again, most on the team. There seems to be a pattern here. Stolen bases. Well, this one's just comical. Darin Ruf did not attempt to steal. Timlocastro attempted 6 stolen bases and stole all 6 attempts successfully. RBIs. Darin Ruf had 1. Timlocastro had 8. And finally, on-base plus slugging percentage, Darin Ruf had a mere .526 OPS. Timlocastro a team-high 927. Timlocastro blew Darin Ruf out of the freaking water. There is literally no other excuse. There is no other reason the Mets can have than to justify the trade if that's why Darin Ruf makes this team and Timlocastro doesn't. Locastro needs to be on this team. Also for the defense. I mean, who else is going to play center field if Brandon Nimmo needs a day or gets hurt? You know what? I will take my chances with Tommy Pham. As bad a spring training as he's had, I got a little more confidence in him coming back and having a little bit of a better regular season than I do Darin Ruf at this point. So they're clearly keeping Pham. I personally would keep Locastro as my last position player on this team. Remember, one more thing. When the Mets made the decision to cut Robinson Cano early in the 2022 season, it was reported that Steve Cohen told his brass, make the right baseball decision. It's not about the money. Is that still the point? Because if you're making the best baseball decision, Timlocastro is the better option, and it's not even up for debate. So I really wonder who's making the final call. Is it Steve Cohen or is it Billy Epler? And does he have that thing in the back of his mind where he still needs to give Darin Ruf a chance to justify himself? I hope it's about winning games because we will give you more credit to the front office if you make the right move and put this team in the best position to win. Well, those are my thoughts. I want to see yours. Put them down in the comments. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair.